Okay, so the topic is about the risk mitigation approach for agile global software development. Okay, so as I think most of you guys knows that I'm much more focusing on agile area, agile software development area. It's just that is what I was actually introducing, not introducing, was exploring this area. That time wasn't yet pandemic. So when the pandemic hits, not I'm saying that all bad things are all bad. So sometimes it teaches us to become more survival, to become more ready, and whatever that we have to use as much as possible our resources. So I do believe that the pandemic hits us at the right time when we are doing where we are actually doing this research part, because when we scroll down our we do our literature review on this area, mostly are not related to pandemic time yet. Okay, so they basically give us some kind of solutions, simple solutions that not yet proven that could be implemented, and most of their case studies are related to co-locations area teams. Means that they focus on the multinational company, because usually multinational company have this kind of setting, global software development settings. But right now, even you are in the same not say country, states or area, you are when you having your MCO, you cannot afford the industrial trainers cannot afford to stop their project progress and everything, and most of them and agile is catching up with the industrial, and most of them are applying agile. So right, this is where we really test out all the techniques and approach that have been written on a lot of papers that we have collected during our literature review, and see how it works. Okay, so basically this is the area that we are focusing right now lah, inshallah. Hopefully with this we can really help our, especially our companies, software houses, software principals, companies to still evolve and still going active when they are focusing on developing projects in the setup of global software development or co-location or distributed teams, on another terms of it lah. Okay, so a bit of introductions. Okay, so the contents of today's session, sharing session. First, I will give a bit introduction of the topic, and then I will go through different types of risk categories that usually faced by the industrial and also any projects that apply agile in their global settings projects, and then some of the related works that we found and discuss later on, and risk mitigation conceptual framework. This is what we actually proposing. Okay, those technique, these basically this conceptual framework is a collective of international standards and also based on literature reviews approaches on come out with a one, I would say I cannot say complete, but then almost usable reliability towards the industrial practitioners to use when they are in that situations. And lastly, conclusion. Okay, so since my area, my topic, you know, there is an agile terms. Usually people start with explaining what is agile. So I only have 2 points. But if you really wanted to know what is more about agile, and I'm taking this opportunity to consider promote our book, our research group book, written by me, and we have 2 professors, what is it, helping in producing this book. Okay, you can find on Shopee. If you interested, you can ask for links. One, we have 1 doctors involved, 2 professors, and 1 associate professor, international associate professor, Professor Dr. Imran Ghani from Pennsylvania University. Okay, so you can find on Shopee. Okay, so sorry to the organizer taking a short break for promoting the book. Okay, I hope moderator will not mind this. Okay, all right. If you want to know more about agile and what is it, the past work that we have gone through on agile research lah. Okay, so Agile is basically, everyone knows, an iterative and incremental development and flexible approach in managing the requirement volatility and emphasize on extensive collaborations between customers and developers. Okay, however, due to the extensive collaborations between the customers, the developers, the stakeholders, makes Agile mechanism a bit difficult to adapt, especially in the global software development settings. Okay, when everyone is when they have been placed miles apart and different time zones and different cultures, background, everything. So in order to really practice the principle or the essence of Agile, which is collaborations. Compared, we went back to Agile manifesto, collaboration over what is it? Projects. Okay, so it's very hard. Okay, so we want to see what kind of risks that actually happens when we apply Agile in this type of settings. And global software development growth means that many software engineers must work together. I think I mentioned this a few times: geographical, temporal, cultural, and linguistic distance. Sorry, should be in this slide. Okay, however, the benefits associated with the global software development will not be realized unless project risks are managed throughout the project development. So means that we want to manage those risks. If the risks are, how to say, inevitable, like Thanos, inevitable. But then, if we manage it properly, if we identify, sorry. Okay. I hope the question actually comes after the question, but if you want to ask the question, you may just ask it. I will try to answer. Okay? Alright, I just continue. So, therefore, this study aims to propose a risk mitigation framework that helps to identify and analyze types of risks in Agile global software development and verifies the mitigation methods to handle those risks in each Agile process models. We make it generalized rather than just focusing on some process models. The framework will manage all types of risks in a different Agile process models that can be used in the global software development. Okay, so before we risk mitigation techniques, okay, we would like to see how we scope or we categorize overall list of risks that we have been identified during our review, and also conducted a survey on among the industrial practitioners. So we have 4 categories, which I will explain it one by one. Okay, so the first categories that we are focusing, that which actually in literature review is a bit still in the very preliminary results being researched on, will be on the outsourcing categories. So outsourcing is related to the legal policies of organizations that which collaborate to project that apply Agile methodologies. Okay, so risk of legal system differences such as jurisdictions, patents, international law, organization challenges caused by global software developments goes beyond the government and companies' policies and differences. Especially these handled by multinational companies. They are quite versed with all these different policies, because they need to know this in order for their projects to run smoothly without any they don't want to invest some things that they are not sure. So it's good that any projects that involve of this kind of maybe in the global setting must actually adhere this risk of only identify this risk and manage it them before it affected the project flow. Next risk categories that are very close to Agile, that is the software development, which is consists of requirements, architecture, software development methodologies, and configuration management. So risks such as to rework certain parts of the projects, loss of data, loss of transmission data, confusions between the teams, communication, everything, and other issues to be mentioned here. And issues on change management. As you know, that one of the biggest traits of Agile is if they apply Agile correctly, they could actually they can handle change management very well compared to other methodologies. But when it been applied on the global software, the issues actually rise through that factor. And lack of general understandings of needs and user stories, requirements. User stories is one of the Scrum method requirements format. But then we are focusing on general, so requirements, needs and requirements that are not well shared within stakeholders, which affect their interactions. Right, and difficulty of coordination caused by geographical distance in agile development can lead to misunderstandings and conflicts, and of course the risk of working in different supply change management environments that lead to process maintenance requests at various stages of the process. As you know, agile is all about delivering on time, and we need a very good change management in order for us to keep track on it. And when we start collaborating with different chief management organization environments, it might actually affect those traits. Means we have to somehow, if we're not being managed properly, it will be bargain or compromise. Okay. Right, the third risk category that we focus is human resources. Okay, so human resources in the such of cultural and social integrations, communication and cooperations. When we deal of the project developments, we deal with people. That's why human resources has become one of the concern risk categories. Yes. Okay, we deal with people, and in terms of the stakeholders, the clients, the stakeholders are the clients, the developers. So when we have all these differences that could not be addressed well, so there will become risks. Okay, so risks such as spatial distribution complicated, the project managers trust to monitor the participants in progress, increase travel capacity, and provide limits to no face-to-face interactions. Sometimes it as you guys have gone through, even in education, we find out that it's very hard for us to teach online, not non face-to-face, because somehow the face-to-face interaction become big factors in learning and teaching. So the same goes to the project management, especially if you are applying the agile methodology. And issues are caused by weak cooperations and communication infrastructure. And converse about weak social relations and organization complexities, schedule, assignments, and budgets becomes more intractable. And among all the human resources are talking about the communications gaps and everything. Here are the different subcategories. As I mentioned to you, when we were starting our research, most of the literature review did not really emphasize on this. But when we find out, we need to emphasize because right now the pandemic is just not affected the multinational companies, it's affected the locals because their own developers, their employees are be working from home, and there will be so the risk and the challenge that they face will be much different. That's why we need to address this type of different kind of collaborations types of categories. First is by the geographical distance. Okay, as you can see on the slide, it says that geographical distance means the physical separations between the development teams. Okay, two sites located in the same country with the ease of access via transportation and reachability are considered close, even if it's separated by a large distance. But when we talk about two sides, we have little transportations, or maybe we have MCO, we hardly can meet each other to discuss. Or if you applying Scrum, for example, you want to have the daily Scrum meetings, it will be very hard, even though you are just living in the same area, in this. And the different social culture, this much more related to the previous the before pandemic times. Social culture distance is different in the language. Imagine you have to discuss and religions, and maybe the solar hours and everything might be actually disrupting the flow of the meetings and everything. Social status, basic assumptions, and economical conditions. These are very important categories of economical conditions between the development team members, culture plays a huge part in how people interact on different problems, how they respond, and how they resolve the issues. And lastly, the temporal distance category, which focusing on the time gap itself between the two teams communicate. So the two teams are located in two different time zone. Of course, it is being separated by geographical distance. Plus, with the different time zone, will make it harder for them to adjust the perfect time to deal with. And as far as my experience in education, not on the agile, like how we handle collaboration between universities at different area, like we have with Taiwan universities, they have different time zones, and it is very hard. I imagine project that is much more how to say focus, much more complicated meetings that they need to have, and much more complicated decisions they need to plan and everything. It needs if have a different time zone, it will be very hard to conduct. Okay. And then the last risk categories that we're focusing on is actually on the project management on the bigger scope lah. Okay, as you know, software development life cycles or the software development itself is actually a subset of project management. But then on the bigger scope, and we are focused on projects, so that's why we are focusing on one of our risk categories on the large, a higher scope, that is the project management in terms of planning, risk management, coordination and control. So risks such as lack of detailed planning can lead to problems with task assignments between teams, collocated teams. Organizational structures cannot be adjusted to reduce delays in problem resolutions. Okay, and then difficulties involve sites that involve this war, means that when we have if you collaborate companies or organizations that come from the countries, wars also could become one of the challenge that happens, and because of the perhaps in terms of the what is it poor internet connections, we need to do online meeting, and then also maybe they have a lot of how to say MCO in the terms of war, not in terms of pandemics, in terms of war, for them to work on the project. Okay, and then reduce project cohesions. The means you need a good cohesions between the teams. If not, it will affect the success of the projects in such terms of delivering on time and delivering the right products to the clients. So here are a few related works that we have searched. So I will start off with something I consider I organize it in forms of, first we are looking on related works regarding just on risk management or risk mitigation techniques on the for the normal agile process model. One of it that we focus is Scrum. Okay, and then after that we will go into much more related works that related on the that focus on the global settings and everything. So so that will be the order of the related works that that I'm going to present today lah. So here's one. So this is a paper that focusing on integrating risk management in Scrum framework. So what they do is actually they take some of the risk methods, management methods, and then they incorporate with the phases on a Scrum process models, and see how does it actually affected the process of the Scrum. So here, as you can see, the normal process flow of Scrum. First, we have the product owner gets the requirements, and then we have the product backlogs of the requirements, and then we have sprint plannings, which will be the input at this brainstorming meeting for risk management between the team members. And then we go on through all the phase, just like normal phase of Scrum. But then in Scrum, we have a sprint retrospective. So in here, they really focusing on the risk management techniques, like short risk management brainstorming meeting in a sprint retrospective, where team will mention new risks found from the projects, and then they collect them in forms of, they make it as a repository, yeah, of identified risks. They register in the risk registers, and they've been having iterative risk management instead of one flow, because we see last what is it, risk management has been applied on the much more traditional methodology. So that's why we do not have such as iterative risk management. But then because Scrum itself is part of Agile and Agile is implemented an iterative process, the process of risk management also being made iteratively. Okay, and here the risk repository from the previous project, and it keep on updating the repository to make sure that they will not, they make sure that they have identified all possible risks and they know how to manage it when times progress. But then again, as I said, this is the first rated works. We only focusing just to integrate the risk management methods, methodology, and also the Scrum without considering it in the global software development scale. Okay, so this was the first rated work. Okay, next, the second paper that we focus on is on the risk of agile software development, learning from adopter. So basically, national organizations, they investigate, they observe how these multinational organizations run their project using agile methodologies. Okay, and so they adopt a qualitative interpretive approach in order to seek for the risk and factors of the organization experience. So based on their research, their paper study, they come up with these factors and the sub-factors of those factors. So basically they come up with two factors that they focus on, which is the development and deployment, and also only on the project management scale. So, and when I focus on, when I read this paper, they only, the respondents, means the people which are involved in their study, is mostly technical or developers levels, not on the management part. So that's why they do not really getting all the basics, not means they're only focusing on the risk that that effect on the development level only, the project element, not on the management part, not on the outsourcing, different policies. They do not consider that yet on that research. Okay, so but never mind. Since this is a little work that we can learn from, so I think that's why we consider this also as our little work. So let's see one by one to see what are the type of factors and the risk mitigation techniques that they have learned from the industry. So the first was the factors focused on the technical debt. Okay, so basically how they mitigate, so list the outstanding technical issues and convince management to allocate one or more iteration cycles to address them, and then address only the most important technical issues that are short terms and could immediately impact the users, and under business pressures ignores accumulated technical debt and continue development until issues surface and require attention. Okay, and then we also have the separation of development and IT operations to ensure that one agile software development teams members is from the IT operations. Okay, invite the IT operation teams to agile software development planning sessions and end of iterations of demonstrations. And then last, the factor for development deployment would be the increased defects in a new agile software development teams, means that they have an new teams recruited, and how they're going to make sure that the new teams can adapt with the flow. So allocate experienced senior developer to that new teams, and then allocate at least one experienced developer to each. Separated, if they have few teams, they will separate at least one experienced developer, and provide on the job training and support to deal with developers uneasiness with agile software development, particularly those lacking on it. So this is a bit on human resource on this part. Okay, and then on the project management, they figure out the factor as one of the factors that they figure out is unstandardized projects management tools. Okay, so audit all ASD or Agile software routine, project management and software testing tools, and discuss customizations. However, they do not have any integrated environments that being proposed, being used in their level of their organizations. So when they incorporated with a lots of different tools, they need to train to how to use the tools, make it a bit harder for them to adapt the tools in their teams and organizations. But that is what they have been reported lah. I'm not really sure, but that also one of the details that we find out, that if you do not have a very good uniform integration tools like what we have facing on DevOps, right? So it's not really managing the risk quite well lah, in my based on the analysis that we have done through this study. And then negotiate limiting the numbers of tools, this is just limiting, and then don't consider the risk as a problem and specify standard tools, just to standard tools but not integrated. And then lack of knowledge retentions. So maybe the organization that you're working, maybe they are not really well versed on the agile methodology itself. So that's why they come up with these factors. And among the risk mitigation, so use wikis to document project progress and explain key decisions. Can create and use software code libraries and encourage code use, and documents important technical specification and key technical decision, and encourage the use of social medias among the teams, members, and cross the teams. Alright, next we are much more this next work are much more focusing on the geographical distance challenges, more on the communications. Okay, they are focusing on the communication risk rather than other risks. Okay, so the study focused on the global companies that develop software geographical distributed locations. In-depth interviews were conducted to collect data for qualitative research that are related to geographical distance, and then interviews were conducted not only among the different companies but different projects, regions, and cultures. This is their demographic respondents for their survey study to create one perspective. So among the solutions that have been proposed in the discussions, visit sites to create team spirit at distributed location and introduce buddy system to promote communication among the distributed teams. So means that we have one buddy from one organization team and another buddy. So they are becoming the bridge between the between these two different co-located teams. And list out the practice of agile global software development settings such as frequent interaction and sprint planning, daily updates among co-location teams, question and remark sessions after each iteration of sprint, increased usage of online communication tools for synchronous communication, and also usage of wikis and social platforms for knowledge sharing among distributed regions. I think this will be the it will be the last rated work, I hope. So another one is much more quite close to our area of topics, and mostly we took some of their methods to incorporate with our other methods to come up with our frameworks. Okay, so let's see what they are, how they actually come up with the risk mitigation safe process. They come up with also a conceptual framework as we are, but we have a meta process model, and also the not a process model and also framework, process framework. They only come up with a process framework, and the risk a bit the scope of risk is not really that wide as ours. Okay, later we will see our framework, inshallah. Okay, so the first risk that they focus is asynchronous. Okay, I'm not really the way of they categorize their risk is a bit different for us. They are much more on the general part, like synchronous, because they can work synchronously. That's why one of the risks is actually synchronous. And then lack of group awareness is much more on the human resource part. And then we have some poor communication also on the poor tool supports on the project management, large number of project signals. Means their risk is not really, how they categorize their risk are not collective enough for me. So and some of the risks that they list out is actually a bit redundant with other risks. So quite confusing when we start reading their approach. Okay, but never mind, that is how they presented their risk. So the first risk that they focus is like asynchronous. So the strategies, so they come up with strategies and the practice to mitigate. So they identify and also they come up with the practice to mitigate. So first strategies on the they come up with it for asynchronous risk is synchronize the work hours. Okay, So adjust working hours between distributed sites to support Scrum meetings. So I guess they consider about the temporal distance, means the time zone, but somehow they come up with one same working hours for both. So maybe if you're following these strategies, if you're on the unlucky side, maybe you have to work from night to morning instead of from morning to night, probably. So that will be the downside. But I guess if that is being said, I guess some of organizations might well manage it. So that's how they explain on these strategies. And then allow distributed Scrum teams members to attend meetings from home. Okay, and then like NASA, like what we are doing right now, working from home. Or rather, I heard the new term, whatever from home. WFH, whatever from home. You do everything from home. Then reducing Scrum meetings length. Okay, we have the strict time box short meetings because they are focusing on Scrum. Okay, another thing is because they're focusing on Scrum rather than as a general. So because in Scrum we do have the daily stand-up meetings, so they need to have a strict time box. Means that even though whatever time zone you are belongs to, you need to somehow adhere to this strict time box short meetings. All right, and then prior asynchronous work. Okay, means they prioritize all the asynchronous works before their deadlines of the strict time box short meetings. Right, next, site-based local Scrum teams. Okay, so Scrum meetings practices attended by each Scrum team, key touch points, and establish multiple communication channels because they have different site-based local Scrum team, so they need to work out on how they could calibrate different geographical distance in different time zone and so ever. And then modified some of the Scrum practice. They cannot really adapt the full original Scrum practice to their current practices, like additional site-based morning. We have a mini Scrum after late night distributed Scrum meetings, and then only key members rather than the whole site members attend in late distributed Scrum meeting, and then only key members rather than the whole site members attend in reduce distributed meetings frequency instead of maybe if they do it daily, maybe daily among their own team, but then for the different team, collocated team or distributed teams, they will have maybe per week or maybe twice, 2 days, once every 2 days, something like that. And synchronous Scrum meeting by posting meeting result on wiki, so everyone can be alerted with all the updates of the progress of the project. Maybe they use rather than wikis. I didn't see any, but for us in my when I was conduct my class, usually what we do is we use tools like Padlet or another one that very famous. What's the name? We always use that. We have a Kanban board there. Not wikis. Uh, what's the name? Anyone can help me? Do you use it? Zataham is here. He's one of the recommender of that tools. Okay. Now I think you guys know, but I just cannot find the names of tools. If someone can help me, just say it. All right. And then sprint demo is conducted by only onshore teams. Okay. Next, the next risk that we focus is group awareness. Okay, is when we talk about people, it's very hard for us to make sure that they can work together. That's why for those who are actually from UTM, maybe you have attended some of our lectures class. Some lectures like, so, okay, I'm going to randomly assign you into a team. And you get all frustrated because I don't want to work with this person. But when you are in these positions, can you really choose? So based on that experience, maybe you can pick up a few tips and tricks how to manage. Okay, so what they do, okay, the strategies, the normal team building strategies that they use for this are like team gathering, visit, additional distributed meetings, training, education, and monitoring meeting position. So I'm actually catching up time. So I hope since this has been pre-recorded, you can pause and you can read out the practices that involve with the strategies. Okay, and might be one day you have teams like that. All these strategies might help you to get some common ground, or a consensus between teams that you just just meet and be friends with to work as a team lah. Okay. Alright, then we have poor communication bandwidth. So we have multiple communication modes like continuous network monitoring by dedicated infrastructure teams and ensure quality transmissions, and also ensure wide range of communication tools suitable to network infrastructure. And then we also have the risks are lack to support. So they need a proactive resource management, like to ensure sufficient skills and effective tools to support Scrum processes. This one was we discussed a bit on the tools. However, they do not really yet find a very good say comprehensive integrated tools for all the management works until the software development integrated tools for them to do the project. And then we have large number of project personnel. So we have to split the large teams into sub teams, and then we have lots of collaborative office environment. So we have single room and dedicated meeting room. So single room is just for the members that they're actually working on the same parts of the projects, and for the dedicated meeting room are much more focusing on the integrations on different parts of the project, and increase the number of sites. Okay, this also a risk. Maybe you start out with just one or two organization collaborator, and as the projects if the projects went very well, might be you have the start management asking you to, okay, we start going to integrate with different organization to make this project the scope bigger and everything. So this is also a risk, and how they manage it is by site-based or Scrum team, and also restricted Scrum team distribution. Okay, so these are the strategies that and the risks that they are focusing. Basically, we also covering most of it, but then we just make it nicer to belong to which category. So we consider organizing a better forms to easy for people to just refer to these techniques. Okay, for different risks. So this is where our work's been, how to say, because the contribution of our study, the output of our study based on the literature review, and also countless of survey with the practitioners and interviews, and also of their work or their standard practice on how they manage this. Okay, so alhamdulillah, also when we do this, it was during the pandemic, so they're also starting towards this type of setting. So it's easier for us to collect very good techniques, learning techniques, how they actually combat or mitigate the risk that they found out during this type of settings. Okay. So how we do it? First, we come up with the process model to show how does the basic of risk process models incorporate with our agile methodology process models. Okay, so how we first we identify what are the activities on the risk methodologies, like the risk review and monitoring, risk management, risk analysis, and consultations. Okay, and then we see the flow. If you see risk, I should have put the basic of risk, risk management activity, not risk management, risk methodologies, how they do, and they are like waterfalls. They start with reviewing and they start with analysis, and then then they do the management, and then they review mentoring. It's like a waterfall flow one by one. So in order to cooperate with the agile, that is actually much more iterative and better, we need to make those those phases become iterative incremental, so it can suit with any agile flow, agile life cycle. Okay, and then we have, if you see, all those techniques are being incorporated before, during, and after the phases of agile. Okay, so this is just a very a bird eyes view on how does this two methodologies integrate. Okay, and then this is the construction frameworks that we come out. I know it's quite blur, so I'm going to switch it to a much better view. Okay, so yeah. All right. I hope you can see. My screen is clearer than the slide, but I hope you can. If you see, if you cannot really read the social framework from your screen or from your is it your laptop, you just mention you just tell me. I will try to see how why is it not clear on your part. Okay, so this is the whole conceptual framework of RMAC. We call it as RMAC. So RMAC stands for, I think I already mentioned on the previous slide, I just didn't mention it, I didn't say it out. So RMAC stands for the Risk Mitigation Conceptual Framework for Agile Global Software Development. So that's why we have RMAC lah. And then here are the four main categories, risk categories that we identify. And then of course they have the subcategories. So if you see how we color code it, like the yellow string will mean it is a risk category, and then the pink strings represent the risk category, the strategies of that specific risk categories, and also the specific risk mitigation approach for each of the sub-risk categories of the strategies. Okay. Alright. I'm not sure I'm going to go all, but I will explain each of the strategies of each risk categories, but just one of it lah. Okay, that might be really interesting to focus on, and might if you are actually looking on agile research, future ideas, you can see lah where can we start to let's say enhance and explore more on that specific area. Okay, so first we start with outsourcing. Then we go by order lah, just like how I presented. So first we start with outsourcing, and the string that I will focus will be the vendor country instability, such as political instability, corruption, peace problems, terrorism, threats, and necessity. Okay, you might be thinking, okay, agile methodologies, software development process. How does it actually related, or maybe related to the area of the outsourcing risk, because that is much more on the higher level of management issues. So why is it related? Okay, so one of the instabilities you see here. So to have a valid set of terms and conditions, the vendor, especially the penalties, if the work are not delivered upon payments. As you know, Agile really not promoting the trades, actually delivering on time. That's why it comes with the terms Agile. They need to be very flexible and very fast in order to deliver their product and on time. So when we have these kind of problems that might affect the traits of Agile, that's why we need to cover the area of outsourcing. So that's why. And of course, like checks companies project profile, like for example, if you are working for someone who are not yet adopting or scaling up the agile methodologies in their work process flow, okay, so it's very hard us to collaborate with them. So that's how when we say that we really think that association should be one of the risk categories that we should focus on, especially when it impacted affect the agile flow in the global development settings. Next, we go. Our second categories will be the, I think, project management first, right? I already forgot the flow. Okay, we just go for project management, then we go to human resource, and we end at software development. Okay, so at project management, okay, we have our different areas of strategies, like subcategories of like collaborations among group members, various or level skills among project members. It really affected the project management since uh, in order for you to really to continue progress in the project without disturbing the flow. But then human resource happens, new members is coming in, and maybe we start to adapt new how to say not skill, experts to our system. Might be they are not very well versed with our project flow using the agile methodologies. So that's why we consider this under the project management risk of the risk. And then like good awareness, okay, and change management lah, of course lah. Because we need to focusing. Okay, I'm not really sure which we have, but I guess I miss out. So never mind. I will update this. I will give you guys share on the group WhatsApp the copy one. I'm not sure why this one is missing out. Okay. So one of the traits that I would like to focus on the variant level. Trait but string that I want to focus is variant level of skills among project members. So we can practice pair programming. Because as I said, this is not really really focus on certain programming. So pair programming is come from XP, extreme programming, but we can adapt. That is a normal practice in the industry actually. They use techniques from XP to maybe they use in FTD or maybe Scrum, or maybe they have the image of Scrum and Kanban. So that is quite a normal practice. So that's why you don't think if I put like this, oh, it's only for people who actually practice XP. No. Some of the if you go to industry, they actually really blended the methodologies to suit to their needs of the projects. Okay, so pair programming, you apply to the SDM or maybe FDD. It is actually quite common practice. So they practice pair programming among incompetent or maybe skillful members, or maybe a different area of expertise. So they need to come to one common ground. So they have this techniques, pair programming and such on. And programming does not mean industry just focusing on the technical skills. They can just be ability in any parts of the tasks of the project. So, okay. Next, we focus on the software development risk categories. Okay, we have change activities, issues on sequencing and clustering among things, and so on. Okay, I will give this slide, this how to say PDF so you can check. I'm catching up times already. I promised 30 minutes, but it's almost 1 hour already. So I just take one, change activity. Okay, I think this is quite a very how to say quite hot topic or quite hot risk that might be facing by the developers or the organization. So how they actually handle it? So they are moving on to the low code development platforms in order to handle change management in real time. Okay, rather than they do it manually, they need to see what is the they need to code from scratch, take times to do the changes of based on the request. So they use proper development tools to platforms to increase the time, decrease the time of change. Okay, and lastly, the human resource. Okay, there is some of the that actually, that's why I say they actually must cut some kind of correlations between the risk category. Okay, like the lack of group awareness, but the way we actually handles it is a bit different based on the risk category. If you see here, they are much more focused on the collaboration tools, focusing on collaboration tools, but here we are more on the team spirit, team spirit building, all those human resource areas. Okay, all right. Back to our slide. Hopefully it's almost ending. Hopefully. Yes, conclusion already. Okay. So the strength of our framework, consortium framework, is focusing on the collective industrial standard practice, okay, and methods of software development and agile methodology as a solution approach to solve the identified potential risks in an agile global software development. And in the future works, we actually on the phase of evaluation, finishing the evaluations phase of our proposed approach, which we will use some techniques such as break analysis on RMAC using suitable statistical analysis techniques such as reliability tests, okay, demographic characteristics of respondents to ensure the validity of the breaker results and data, and we use multiple linear regressions to forecast effects or impacts of our consortium framework RMAC towards the project success, which leads to proving our study hypothesis. Okay, so that's all from me. I'd like to say thank you, and we have a short, I hope short Q&A session.
Hi, Dr. Adila.
Yes.
I just want to ask if you are your future work is on um to survey the agile practice in industry. Which industry are you focused to plan for gaining your survey?
Okay, so our respondents come from different background. We are not just focusing on industry, but since you are focusing on industry, of course, we last time we thought that we only focusing on the multinational companies, like we just conduct a survey on what is it? One company at Singapore that have a branch in KL. I forgot the name. Maybe Tasha can help me with my students project actually, research actually. And then we also have some discussions, or no, survey on the Intel from Penang. It's a multinational. But then when the pandemic strikes, we also focusing on the locals, because right now their teams also working on the co-located. So that's why we add this. Oh, sorry. See, I open so many tabs here. Uh, no, word close would never end. We include the geographical distance too as our risk. Uh, is that answering the questions? I think Hamiza, is that you?
Yes, I just want it answer my question.
uh, right? Yeah. Any more questions from the audience? I cannot check who's actually inside the session. How can I see it? Because when I start sharing, I cannot see who's.
May I
Can I start
ask
seeing? Yes.
what is your what is your expectation if they are using your framework? Okay, what is your
Yeah.
expectation to what do you expect they will gain the benefit if they implement your framework?
Of course, the main idea of the study is actually to improve the workflow of companies or industrial players on this area. And last time we only focusing how they can really adapt agile in their companies, but then they face a new challenge that is on the global settings, the global area, what's it level, and because agile, we see on the agile manifestos, we really enforce one of the traits of agile is collaborations. And if this level we have a hard time to do collaborations, so how they can really get the benefits of applying agile in their projects. So that's why we are focusing on this study. Oh, there's a lot of questions on chat. Okay, I didn't. So moderator Muhammad Ishak, should I read the question
Yeah.
or?
Yes, we have 3 questions from Mr. Muhammad Mujtaba.
Uh-huh.
My brother, Mujtaba, are you there?
Assalamu alaikum all. Yeah, I'm here.
So please, you may ask the panel.
Yes, thank you very much, doctor. Very interesting topic. Yeah, I learned so many things. Just I am so curious to know about the difference, because I'm working for the, let's say, V model with the hardware team with my company. So they don't want to shift to agile. So I have to motivate them. For that
Yes,
reason, I would
yes,
like
yes, right.
to.
They are
I
already
would,
suitable
yes,
with
I would
the
like.
waterfall, you know?
Yes, waterfall. I have to motivate them. For that reason, I want from you just to give me idea that what the disadvantages of waterfall will be in when we compare to agile models. Just give practical examples.
And,
Practical examples.
yes, and also Dr. Adila, I want to ask how can we if they have change requests, how can we want to control that change request without and ask them to limit the change request, because I know Agile is quite open to requirement, new requirement. So new requirement, new sprint, new requirement, new sprint. So how?
Okay, so I have two different set of questions. First is Muhammad Mutaba asked how can we convince our management, I mean in your company, how they can really adapt agile, see the benefits compared to the waterfall. Okay, one of the risks when I was searching, not specifically to my to this study, but on DevOps. DevOps was a big, right now is a big current trend, and one of the risks is actually adapting DevOps, since DevOps are really focusing on automation tools. And the risk, the biggest issues that when they survey on the companies to adapt DevOps is actually to learn the tools, to adapt with the tools. Even though it's automations, but the learning curve of the tools is very hard. Okay, but Agile has been, we have a lot of research that talk about, how to say, adopting Agile in the different levels of organizations. We have a higher level organization adapting. We have in the in the area of projects levels, project management levels, and only for the specific software development teams. Okay, so most of the adopting Agiles that we see, basically it starts from the small scale. Okay, start using Agile, like use the famous like Scrums, and just now the tools I want to mention is Trello. Now I remember. Okay, all right. Come back to your questions. Start using Agile in small scale and see the benefits of Agile. But first, your team must actually have someone really experts. Bring consultations. We have a lot of good Agile consultations. We have a group, a Facebook group of Agile consultants. If you are interested on that, I will give you the link of the Facebook accounts. They are very good. They are certified. Come to your company, consult with your team members first. Okay, because Agile is all about software development first. But then when they start to see the benefits of using Agile, like the traits are fast delivering on time, and then also change management handles well with the changes, then they will actually appreciate, and maybe they do the adoptions little by little. You cannot directly push. Okay, I think whole of the projects will have to, we have a framework for that. And in fact, one of Prof. Dayang's students actually focusing on that, adapting agile methodologies in the organizations. Okay, so maybe I will share with you that. And then the second question, I will answer your question,
Okay.
And the difference between waterfall and also you need to have some good history of implementing the waterfall projects. See the lacking of those methodologies, and then when you start to see and then you start compare with the agile, that will be much more, how to say, not personal much more relevance to your organization, because even though you have software houses, they have different issues, different challenge. So which part of the challenge that you are looking forward to address, and you see and you compare how the waterfall process cannot be handled, and then how the agile could help on that specific issues. Okay. And then on question of presented by Mrs. Haniza, one of my close dear friends, my batch actually from UTM, asking about, what was the question again, Miza? Miza?
Okay, client, they always ask for change of requirement. Okay, if in our current practice, if they change requirement, we will provide them with one form, and then they have to sign for that change of requirement. So if there are any additional charges, so before they sign, we will give them quotation. So then they will sign. So in Agile, so I know Scrum and Agile is open for open requirement. So how does this practice will accommodate in cost effective requirement request from client?
Alright, based on the question, usually I have that question a lot, especially from someone that actually my students lah, who actually just start up a company, and then they try to apply Scrum, and then they say, oh, since Scrum is, I think that's actually happens when you actually misunderstand what does Scrum actually, the process of Scrum actually works. You think that when you see in Scrum, we have product backlog, so means that we have all the requirements. So how is that any different from waterfall? That's how we collect requirements, right? In waterfall, we collect everything. Rather than in Scrum, what we do is for pure, I mean, these are the practice being practiced by not in our, unfortunately not in our local, I'm not sure if the one I haven't worked with, they practice that way. Okay, they practice, they collect all the requirements, and then they make up the contract. But then in the Agile manifesto, we do not say contract, we say negotiations. So we start out with the first thing that they want. So we say, okay, first, what is the first and most important modules that you want to develop? Okay, so I want to develop for example, normal MIS systems. So I want to focus on the user module first, okay, on the login registration first. Okay, so in one cycle of sprint, you're just focusing on that. Or maybe you separate on different sprints, because sprints have the limited of 4 weeks. So you go on that one. And the contract, and on the contract, it was being paid based on the cycle of sprint, not based on the contract, on the initial contract. Okay, but then it's hard to implement that, especially when you have government government contracts and everything. They do not want that. They want one full set of requirement set, and then they sign off, right?
Betul.
So that is actually the hard part when you really wanted to adapting real agile practice. But if you go to overseas companies, when I have some online conference with them, when I ask that questions, they say their terms, their base terms and condition is based on the sprint cycle, not based on the full initial requirements, full SRS recommendations. It's being paid based on the cycle of sprint.
So how many cycle of sprint they are in the contract that are suitable in our
It depends on the changes that requested. First, maybe these are the set of requirements. They continue. Also, they based on the first initial planning, they have around maybe 10 set lah. For example, if small system, 10 set of sprint cycles. Okay, 40 weeks. All right, because one only for 4 weeks. But then when the changes keep on adding up, they will add up the cycles. So the customer is being charged based on the cycle of the change, because usually we finish a cycle first, then we present the work to the customer, right? And then we do again the sprint planning. So the next sprint planning, the next payment for the sprint planning, not for the next set of requirement. If there is changes, not the payment for the next set of requirements, but then the next the set of changes that they want to apply on that current system or modules that they've been delivered. That's how they really manage it. Okay, but then another techniques that I learned from one company, actually from my company, is actually to reduce the time of do the change management. Like I mentioned to you just now, one of the company, not one company, my company, we are producing tools, low code development platform tools. So we reduce the time to do changes based on the request. So that's how they actually manage, and that's how they implement the changes. And another way is from the other companies that I interviewed, they said that they already put extra charges for any potential change. Means that either they charge or not, they already include the the fees of change. Means that that is a part of the contract, initial contracts.
Okay.
So there are different ways on handling the change in Agile.
That quite very, I think, I don't know, okay, this is from the point of view of project management for Agile. So how does we can charge for maintenance of for the software? When will it be? When can we charging for software maintenance? If we
For the
are
software
too
maintenance,
busy for
usually
change requests. Yes.
means how set of I mean the duration of the warranties usually for free lah. But then they have a support maintenance. They include the charge on the initial projects. Maybe very how to say experienced practitioners. If they're in the teams, that person really know how to charge based on the experience of the past projects.
Yeah, I know, but if we are applying Agile, so because at current practice, I know how to charge for maintenance. So like say we have 1 year for software development, and then for this 1 year, for current year, we are absorbing the maintenance fees. So we are starting the charging for at the following years. So on the Agile part, so when we have, okay, we might, based on my understanding, I know we might have agreed with customer to have how many, like 20, for example 20 cycle of development. So during after 20 cycles, so we cannot, if we have received the additional requirement that require us to add on the cycle of development, so when will the suitable time to charge for maintenance based on Agile practice? And also
Change or maintenance means the system
in the
has
form of view
been
point of view of finance for charging, have you asked them how is it legally, so if auditor asks, okay, why are you charging too many, how, in their terms, have you asked about that? This
yeah.
is my asking. I'm very curious about this because I want to implement Agile, but yeah,
Okay, just now you asked about change. Right now is about support maintenance,
yes,
right?
also yes.
So you asking how we charge the change and how, okay, support maintenance usually happens when you already deliver the system, means the system is already on live lah. Okay, right? Or you
Yes.
asking right now the systems have not yet live, that but the user actually still requesting for changes.
We might be for our initial, macam mungkin masa permulaan kita we have agreed for 20 cycle of development only. Okay. So dah lepas 20 cycle tu, tiba client ask for new requirement. So you
Or
need
new
to
requirement,
have
new charge.
new charge. So the maintenance tu bila?
Maintenance tu for the current system, because new requirement you add up to the, you kira macam you update, right? The system, right?
Yes.
So new charge. The maintenance
So
macam biasa.
new negotiation agreement lah, like that.
Yes, usually that is because
Okay.
siapa nak kerja for free, means when there is
Betul.
some workload, new workload have to be done, you can charge. Just that how usually, that's why I say some of companies they really come up with they really attach to a certain platforms that reduce time and efforts to do the changes, and then some company really add the the charge, the change charge, maybe by hidden charge, or they actually say that, or maybe they say okay, we have some extra charge but we only charge if there is some changes based on the new
Oh.
but
How do
then
you want to
when you
negotiate with client if charge many time, you know?
many time tu memang susah. That's why I cakap the client needs to know how the process of development. It's not something that you buy things from supermarket that and then beli satu kali beli you dapat dah produk tu. This is something, for me a system is a living thing. You need to keep on upgrade, you need to maintain it in order for it to work. That is software. Okay, it's a living thing. So it's hard for you to say static, what is it? budget. But then I'm not really sure. We have our good practitioner Dr. Hishamuddin is here. Maybe Dr. Hishamuddin would like to share. But that is how me and my company and some of the companies that I have interviewed. Dr. Hisha, nak chip in sikit bagian ni, tolong sikit Cik Puan Haniza kita ni.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Okay, so basically I just joined this session toward the end lah, but I heard about this discussion about the change request. Okay, usually in any development, okay, we have the time. We are given the number of months to complete. Okay, after we complete the development, okay, and then we deploy, and then this is where we started to as a support. Okay, change request mean when they are the new things. Okay, when they are not stated in the SRS or SDS, but they want to add new features. Okay, but if they are bugs, so of course we have to fix it because this is our faulty. Okay? We have to fix it. But if they are change request, meaning the new features that they request is not in the earlier development they didn't, maybe because of not thorough during the requirement they are miss something. In the specification maybe they miss something. So of course, in this case, if they really want to have the function, the features, we have to charge. Initially, usually we already specify. I mean, how many charge per hours, for example, how many charge for example, the product owner and the development teams, and then based on the complexity of the change request, so our team have to calculate what is the total cost for to make the features available. Start from the preparing the documentation and development and testing. So you have to calculate the total amount, and then we can propose that to the client, and then with justification. Okay. And then suppose they have to, if they want the features, they have to agree with their price, maybe with some adjustment kan. Okay, so that's my comment. Okay, Adila.
Thank you, Doctor. So Miza?
Yeah, I got it. It's like that. It's like that.
So new works, new thing to do, you need to charge them. That is standard lah.
Standard.
Before this, because I heard about the CR form, so we still can implement that, and because we still to follow the SOP lah. To this, if there are any changes, they have to fulfill the form. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's the matter of how to implement in
Agile.
Oh
yes.
In Agile, because because basically it's just a backlog. A new requirement is a new backlog, but because if the development is already finished, so you have to get it as a CR.
Yes.
Any new changes? CR.
All right, Doctor. Thank you very much.
But it depends lah, because in government sometimes it's difficult to implement.
Yeah, in reality it's difficult to implement actually.
Yep.
Because as we discussed earlier, if those they are really familiar with, they are really comfortable with waterfall, they're not still not accepting this Agile.
Yes, and also in the point of view for finance people that want to charge the client, so they want to, why you charge so many times? That's why. That is my opinion, my curiosity only. Thank you, Doctor.
Share?
Thank you, Dr. Adila. Sorry for asking too much, because that is the reality we are facing.
Yes, I know that. That is that's why the industrial different companies, they come up with different ways, or maybe they're following like Dr. Hisham's ways lah.
Okay, so is there any questions for our Dr. Adila?
No more?
Last question from me only.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay. Regarding this agile, do you think in education field can we implement this agile system? Let's say in university UTM.
I think that is what we are currently I think doing right now, means that I and Prof Dayang try to implement this agile methodology using the final year project platforms. Currently that we are trying to implement it, see how it goes and everything. But then I see some of the PSM students when they do the presentations, and when they do the presentation with me, and they claim that they use agile methodologies, and I say which process model you're focusing. That is another confusion lah. But there are still a lot of misconceptions of agile. I didn't blame them, even the organizations, when we do a survey on how they really adopt agile methodologies, right? They do not really how to say, especially in the local area, local scope, they don't really adapting agile. They are just try to adapt whatever technique that they think suitable, and then just adapt, but not taking as a whole the whole techniques of methodologies. Maybe, and they have a lot of reasons. Some are valid, some are just why. It means some of them do not really understand agile. So right now, that's why one of our initiative, me and Prof Dayang working on, we try to adapt agile methodologies at FYP levels. But then one of the issues that we face is actually agile is actually collaboration. The manifesto is collaboration. Since FYP are individuals works, how can we really implement agile in FYP level just concerning a few students? Or they have to really collaborate together to implement agile methodology? So that's one of the issues that we are facing, and we are still do some research on it, do some study on it.
Okay.
So from Brother Mustabah, FYP is final year project for degree student at UTM. If you don't know.
PSM.
I was curious to know whether they do daily stand-ups and others, So.
Yeah, that is one of the issue that we are facing. But we are still studying how really can we adapt. Not adapt means implement agile on FYP level.
I know,
Okay.
but yeah, we have Trello, and Trello is one of the best tools to use.
Trello, but then he's the only one working, or she's the only one working.
Yes.
So
we must have one organization, must have one Scrum Master, and then if they start, they because they afraid to start. That is a problem. Not starting, don't know lah, don't improve.
True.
Okay, maybe Dr. if I can add. Okay, in last semester, so I teach a subject, we call it as application development. Okay, I have 2 sections. Overall, I have 102 students. So this is basically the second time I teach this subject. But how I implement Agile? So because these students, they have the account for Microsoft 365. So in that Microsoft, so 365, one of the tool is, we call it as a planner. Okay, so planner is somehow quite similar to Trello lah. Okay, so this student, so I divided them to groups, so where I asked them to form a group in a form of 4 or 5 students. Okay, so in this course, basically I didn't teach them anything. Okay, I just them to come up with the idea of projects but I asked them to consider the current features of current feature that we have in software. For example, single sign-on, in terms of reporting, full of with a third-party library, for example, and then integration with, for example, online payment. Okay. So basically, I didn't teach them because these students, they only have the basis of PHP programming for web development, and there are no mobile no mobile experience, no mobile development experience. Okay, so I just introduce them with, for example, the M365 tools. Okay, so the planner, and then I ask them to use the Clockify. So this Clockify basically as a production tools where you can monitor the team contribution.
Yes, great tool, great tool.
How they spend the time for the task. Okay, and then also I ask them to explore. Instead of using PHP, I ask them to use other language, but I didn't teach them. Okay, they have to explore, they have to learn how to to develop an application using either Flutter or Python, so whatsoever that they have to choose. Okay, so they come up with the idea, so I just guide them how to use the planner. That means how to implement to develop using the agile methodology, because yes, they learn in the software engineering subjects. They learn about they know they heard about agile methodology, but they are blur how to implement this agile methodology.
True.
So when we start, so they just come with the idea, and then they start with the with the functionality of the system. Okay, so what I introduce to them is the wireframing. So I ask them to identify end-to-end process. Okay, end-to-end process, and then they can visualize how basically the system will interact. So based on that, so we identify the persona, and then based on the persona, we try to come up with the user story. They split the end-to-end process into certain user stories, and then we have a list of backlog. So there, when we introduce that, because this is only about 10 weeks of development, so we split the iteration into the sprint into 3 or 2 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks. So we have about 4 iterations. The sprint, I mean the sprint 4 is the complete development. So they can feel they have to identify based on the overall features, the system functionality. They have the list of functionality, or we call it as a backlog. Okay, and then they decide so which function that they want to implement in the first iteration. Okay, and then they start to develop. Okay, and then after the 3 weeks they present as a sprint review. So we can see that after 3 weeks we already have some kind of function that work. Instead of if you use waterfall, you have to work until at the end of the project, and then you can see the product. But in this, because we are working on the workable product, we identify which user story that we want to implement in each application, so they can see how to implement, and then if one of the function that they plan for the particular iteration they cannot complete, they have to carry to the next iteration and so on. That's why sometimes because there's so many functions, basically if even the development is the time for development is already finished, but there are still a lot of backlog lah. Okay, but what I'm saying is this group of students, basically they don't have any experience with agile, and then at the same time they also have to carry another subject with another assignment, but they are eager to learn, and then they because I push them to learn by themselves. They have to explore YouTube, they have to see the blog for development. Okay, and then they manage some group, they even can deploy the application to using continuous integration and continuous development. They can deploy, because I also ask them to use GitLab. They use the repository, okay, as a collaborative environment for their source code, and then they really appreciate that, because before this they develop based on local PC, and then when they want to present, they will combine, but usually when you combine there's a lot of error, but because they learn about GitLab, so it's easy for them to integrate all the function based on development by the team members. Okay, this is how I implement for in our environment. So because maybe the problem is when they start, they have difficulty to understand basically how to implement the agile, how to plan this because they don't have the project management skill, and then they have to learn about the programming language and new things. So, but I believe this group of students, they all learn a lot because I also asked them to come up with the reflective report, individual reflective report, and then one of the students wrote prepare a report with about 70 pages. Just to share what the experience that she get from this activity. But I just encourage them to explore, and then those students who are really eager and proactiveness, so they get a lot. But if those are just passive, they maybe just they always give a reason for not to do it, not to explore. Okay. So this maybe can answer the Muhammad Sabab.
Yes, I understand. So the key ingredient is push yourself for betterment, right, doctor?
Yes, that's most of the students in the conclusion of their reflective report. One of the students even said this is what they learn. They learn how to learn. They learn how to learn things because usually before this in any subject the project is toward the end of the course. Okay, and then they learn they just follow what the subject content, I mean given by the lecturer, and then they just follow that, and then they want to apply in the project toward the end of the maybe 2 or 3 weeks, the last of 3 weeks, but maybe sometimes it's difficult. I mean, and then they just focus on what they have learned, and they didn't add any features. But in this case, because I just give idea, and then they explore, and during the sprint review, I will give comment what function that they supposed to have. Because now they even several group even can apply the OTP. They can put the for OTP, even for even some group can do the email verification. Okay, even they can implement the online payment using the sandbox version. But they feel they manage to find the example and to implement in their application. So I think most of the students, I believe they are ready for their final year project, because in this semester they will register for final year project. But this group of students is not under software engineering. This is under network.
Oh, okay.
I see.
That is okay. Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
doctor, for the knowledge.
Thank you so much, Dr. Syamdin. That's why actually I do believe application development is a good platform for us to really teach methodologies or whatever any software developments or methods and practice that we have captured from the industry and bring to the classroom. However, itulah saya pun tak pernah dapat ajar application development, and last time saya pernah jadi TA sebenarnya untuk application development ni dengan Dr. Imran. Dr. Imran also apply on agile methodology tu dalam ni. It's just that kita orang more fokus kepada change management. Macam Dr. Hisham, saya rasa dia more apply on the normal flow of macam cara nak practice the sprint, and then guna all the continuous integration and preparation, delivery, continuous delivery. Tapi kita orang more fokus on change management lah. On application development, I think application development is a good platform to really bring industrial practice towards the education punya level, and very insightful sharing from Dr. Syamdin. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Bishai.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Miza and Mr. Mujtaba for the question, and also thank you for Dr. Adila and Dr. Syamudin for the sharing. So now let's proceed to the next session. I would like to invite Ms. Nazihah to begin her research progress presentation.
Thank you. May I? Um, uh, can everyone see my slide?
Yes, we can
Okay.
see it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bismillah. Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you for your time and willingness to check on my research progress on adaptive learning model for learning computational thinking through educational robotics. So here I have prepared a presentation outline for you guys. So I hope that everyone can enjoy the moment. So basically, our main intention for our research is first to improve the student understanding on city and their capabilities to apply the city skill in solving problems. As city able to serve a systematic way in solving problems, while this skill can help us in fostering for IR challenge. But before that, what is CT? CT skill is also known as a fundamental skill for everyone, which involves solving problem activities, designing system, and also understanding human behavior by mapping the concept into computer science or any context. And besides that, so we are trying to integrate um, educational robotics into CT, as we found that robotics can really help the students in learning more about the technologies, engineering, or even science. And many researchers claim that it is the easiest way to understand 4IR better by focusing on technology such as robotics, especially in education sectors. Educational robotics can really attract the excitement of the students to learn more. So we are trying to expose the students to the robotic programming skill through ER. However, what is the relation with adaptive learning model? So, adaptive learning model, we are trying to propose it for learning computational thinking through education robotics for better nurturing CT through ER to the students, because there are many researchers have implemented, have fostering, have nurturing CT through ER. But students have come up with multiple personal traits. So that is the idea on how we try to propose the adaptive learning model. However, the proposed adaptive learning model for learning computational thinking through educational robotics giving us a few challenges. First, on the integration of both subjects and also the adaptive learning. So in integrating CT and ER, as CT and ER has a big scope, there are many various kind of sources have developed by researchers to integrate both. But there's lack of sources of integrating of both subjects, and there's lack of sources that really showed the systematic way to teach and learn, because CK and ER has a big scope, and for example, ER has a various kind of sources of development, and also there are many concepts has been introduced in CT, but uh, every concept and every kind of development may be not suitable for all students for the level of for the all of the students level. So for adaptive learning, there are many kind of implemented development of adaptive learning. And in general, if we are focusing to gain the knowledge, we can just apply the existing adaptive learning. But when we want to measure the students' understanding and capabilities on the topics, while we want to integrate both subjects, the existing adaptive learning unable to support and fulfill our requirements. So, Our motivation first is we need to know what are the concept and ER development, and also does all the concept and CT can be attained through ER programming, and what are the bottlenecks or issues to attain CT core principle through ER programming. And then, can adaptive learning model address the issues, and how to evaluate the adaptive learning? That is our motivation. So, the first objective was we would like to propose a conceptual model that represents the relationship between CT concept along with the ER development in learning. We are focusing in learning. Second, to provide learning activity adaptively based on different background of knowledge and learning style. Why we want to provide the learning activity? Because we want to see the performance of the students in learning progress. Because the existing adaptive learning, most of existing adaptive learning, they are trying to provide the learning material suit with the students, based on their learning style. But in this study, we would like to focus on in providing learning activity adaptively based on background knowledge and learning style, and then to evaluate and validate the effectiveness of the adaptive learning model. So this is the related work. As I mentioned, there are many kind of development of adaptive learning. So we take one similar that related with our study, and we try to enhance the adaptive learning model. And we present the adaptive learning model by using the Moodle platform. As you know, in pandemic now, we can do it physically. So we try to adapt our learning via online. So here, as you can see, this is the overview of the existing adaptive learning. They use one level of adaptiveness, whereas they just ask the student to answer their learning style, and then they just take the cumulative grades of the students of the courses, and then after that they recommend the learning materials interest based on the learning style and the cumulative grades. And what we try to enhance is we just take what the study have done, but we enhance with, we don't take the cumulative grades, because our objective is we want to improve um, the performance and see the capabilities of CT. As I mentioned before, CT is a fundamental skill for everyone in solving problem. So if we just give the knowledge, we don't know if the student really get the concept, really can apply the concept with in solving problem. So we try to do like this. We try to enhance, we set the knowledge level by using the formative assessment. After they got the material interest based on their learning style, they need to answer quizzes or tests, and then if they pass the test, they can continue with the next topic. If they cannot pass the test, they need to, they will be recommended for extra learning activities that's suitable with, that according to their learning style, so that we believe in this way they can really understand and able to apply the CT in solving problems. Next, this is our research methodology. So we have 4 phases, and the 4 objective 1 to propose the conceptual model that represent the relationship between CT concept. There is on phase 1 and phase 2. Our phase 3 is for achieving objective 2, and our phase 4 is for achieving objective 3. So for the objective 1, we have done literature review techniques, and we have applied grounded theory analysis technique to develop a conceptual model which can really represent the relationship between CT concept and also ER. So we have so here is the initial conceptual model that shows the relationship between CT and ER. We have its attribute, we have its element, and also relation between it. And after that, we have undergo the expert review evaluation to evaluate our conceptual model. Thus, the conceptual model is really relevant and it's correct to present the relationship between CT and ER. After we have undergo the expert review, we have come out with the final conceptual model, which there is elimination with the attributes, the elements, and we also have introduced new elements in presenting CT and ER. So next is the objective 2 is to provide learning activity adaptively based on different learning style and knowledge. So to provide, we enhance the existing work like I've mentioned before to measure which more is adaptive. So for the second objective, we will compare the two platforms that really have two adaptive learning model, the existing one and the enhanced one. I'm in progress in enhancing this algorithm into the existing one. That is in progress. No result yet, but this is my idea. So after we enhance this, we will evaluate and compare the adaptive learning model 1, which is the existing one, and the adaptive learning model 2. We will measure which is more adaptive by evaluating using a group of students, two group of students that using adaptive learning model 1 and adaptive learning model 2. So our hypothesis is our hypothesis is adaptive learning model 2 is more adaptive compared to adaptive learning model 1. Okay. And then last, we want to evaluate and validate the effectiveness of the adaptive learning model, which here we will recommend learning activities accordingly to the conceptual model. Okay. In objective 2, we will just use the subject used at the existing learning model, which is data structure and algorithm. But for the objective 3, we will use our domain, which is we want to learn learning computational thinking through ER. Because of that, we want to evaluate if does the adaptive learning model is really address the issues, and then we compare with the non-adaptive learning model. So our hypothesis is adaptive learning model can improve student capabilities in density for solving problem. So my progress is I still strive in enhancing this algorithm before I can proceed with the evaluation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nur Nazihah, for the sharing. Now let's proceed to the Q&A session. If anyone has any question or comment regarding the topic, please, you may ask. Mujtaba, do you want to ask?
Why Moodle framework? Why
Yes.
Moodle framework?
Okay, yeah. If you want me to ask, then I will ask you. Educational robots, So do you have any idea of educational robots?
Sorry? What?
Educational robots. They are trained like in what you do this research, that computational, they are trained. They will help all to the lecturers or professors for the teaching. There is a project going on in Germany. So
yes.
educational robots are also trained, to support the professors and lecturers.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So it is okay. Yeah.
Educational
For the
robotics.
evaluation part, will you take like this, or how you want to do the evaluation part for this?
The evaluation part?
Yes.
Okay, here. Okay, in my research, there is two kind of evaluation. First, I will evaluate the adaptive learning model first without using the educational robotics. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the third objective, I will implement the adaptive learning model for learning computational thinking through ER. So what we do is, first we propose a conceptual model, right? To see
Yeah.
what is the relationship between CT and ER. So in our objective 3, we will try to serve learning sources that is recommend the learning activities, which is for example, city concept 1, algorithmic thinking concept, for example. So what kind of activities that is suitable and can be supported by the educational robotics? For example, we took a line following robot. So a line following robot activities, we um we we serve with the city concept. For example, algorithmic thinking is a step by step. So the activities that can the student do is, for example, okay, provide a flow chart how the robots can go from the point A to point B.
Okay.
That is just a example of activities, and educational robotics actually can help the students to play along with the activities. We just use the educational robotics just to attract the excitement of the students, and we also just try to expose the student with the robotic programming skill. If
But they will not replace the professors, no? They cannot
I know,
replace the
no,
Okay.
they cannot replace the professors.
Yes, yes, okay.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much. That's all.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I believe there's a question from Miss Miza about Moodle.
Yeah, I just want to ask why Moodle? Why Moodle framework? Why not other framework? Why Moodle? That is my question.
Okay. As I mentioned before, we try to enhance the existing adaptive learning model. We just want to present our adaptive learning model into a platform. So we choose Moodle platform as now we are in a pandemic situation, because my students my respondents is, we cannot do physical activities because learning computational thinking through educational robotics, we need physical activities. So what we try to do is we deliver the courses through a Moodle platform, which online learning platform, and also we will send the robots to them, and then we can just discuss and learn. They can learn the city and take quizzes through the Moodle platform. As a Moodle platform is an e-learning platform, like ours. We using e-learning. E-learning is also from Moodle platform. There's also others platform such as open learning, but the open learning, they don't serve provide editable theme. We just can use that. We can't put our own algorithm, but Moodle they provide us to create our own platform that we can edit, and we can put our own algorithm how we want to present the platform to the students. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Miss Miza and Mr. Mujtaba for the questions. I guess this is the end for today's colloquium. Thank you everyone for your participation. I hope I will see each other on our next colloquium. But before we end our session, I would like to share some good news. Our School of Computing is now in second rank for subject Computer Science and Information System in Malaysia. This is a huge achievement for us. I believe that it is a good opportunity for us to improve more and be top ranking. Let us give a huge applause to all who have been involved in the achievement.
I just want to know who will be the first one. Who is the first ranking?
That's I don't know. Okay. Okay. Thank you everyone and have a nice day. Now you may leave the meeting.
Thank you.